unless you've done this, try to encapsulate everything that's dear to you about your life, which is generally one's religion, and do it in 6 or 7 minutes. You have no idea how hard this is. So, since they all did a lovely job, can we have one more? Okay, I'm going to start a question for everyone, and since Rabbi started the presentations, we'll ask Dr. Shafi to start with the general question for everyone, which is, since this was not mentioned except briefly by one person, what are the laws for burial in your faith? Very briefly. And if you'll stand. And you have to touch, you have to talk really close into that.
Well, as Muslims, we regard the human body, once the soul escapes, is a trust of God. It has to be returned to God immediately, as quickly as possible. So as Muslim families, when somebody passes on, we try to expedite the process of burial. And what we do is we cleanse the body like a bath, and then there is a prayer service, and all the Muslims who are available assemble and perform Salatul Janazah, that is the prayer of the dead person, and then as a community we pray for the hereafter and the future life, and then we take them out to the burial ground. Again, some verses of Quran are recited, and the body is buried and covered, and then the whole family makes a prayer, and then we move on.
Thank you. I'm going to ask that we not clap until the very, very end of the program, because clapping takes seconds, and we've only got a few of them. So, thank you, Dr. Shafi, Dr. Pannu.
Sikhs do not bury, we cremate. And cremation is generally done with, if possible. Like in India, they would do it within 24 hours, but in the West, we have to we have adjusted ourselves that until the family from different parts of the world can get together, that's when we're going to have the final rites, as you would say. And so the body is bathed, then by the family members, and then all the community comes together, friends and relatives. We have prayers, after which the body is taken for cremation, and generally the son is the one who lights the fire, whereas here he presses the gas button, and then after that, the whole community goes to the Gurdwara, where we have another prayers, singing of hymns, and we served. And at that time, during prayers, we ask for the Creator to forgive the soul for whatever sins or mistakes he or she may have made in his life on this earth, and keep that soul with him.
Thank you.
In the Christian Science faith, it's up to the individual as to what they feel is appropriate for their family member. Cremation is certainly allowed. Typically, we don't do a funeral, a traditional funeral type of service. But we are big on memorial. We love to remember our friends, and often you will find that this is done maybe after burial or cremation in the friend's or family's home. It can be done in a variety of ways, but it's a rather private matter. The church manual does say that in the case of sudden decease, an autopsy is to be performed, just to keep the record clear.
Thank you.
In the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, there's no specific laws with regard to burial. The members have a choice of whether to bury someone or to cremate them. We do the typical funeral service with prayers and speakers and eulogies, and there is a dedication at the grave that is conducted by a priesthood holder, which typically is a member of the deceased family, invariably, somebody who holds the priesthood in their family. For your information, priesthood holders are anyone 12 years old or older, and Melchizedek priesthood typically after age 18. And so the burial would be a Melchizedek priesthood holder doing the dedication of the grave.
Thank you. Elham.
Baha'is believe that the soul enters a body at the time of conception and that the body houses the soul during the lifetime. So Baha'is don't believe in cremation out of respect for the body. We won't do anything that speeds up or slows down the process of decomposition, so no embalming unless it's required by law. Baha'is have to be buried an hour from the place that they died. That's why you won't find a lot of Baha'is pre-buying burial plots, because they don't know where they're going to die. The body has to be washed and wrapped in either cloth or silk. It should be in a casket of the finest material that is affordable. They should be buried close to the time of death, as close as possible, and the only requirement is that a prayer for the dead be read as the body's being entered into the ground.
Thank you. Rabbi.
The laws are quite extensive for Judaism, but similarly to Baha'i and to Islam, we have burial as soon as possible. Between the time that the person passes, there is a shomer, traditionally a shomer, a person who will sit with the body and recite psalms, never leaving the body alone, because there is a mystical thought that the soul is hovering. The Chevra Kadisha, the fellowship of volunteers to handle the body, will do the washing, that's called the tahara, and will put the body in a shroud, which is called tahrifi, so that everybody is pretty much the same. There's no, traditionally we don't dress them in fancy dresses, and we use a plain pine box to help with the returning the body to its origin. The body is quickly and reverently lowered into the ground with prayers. The Kaddish prayer is recited if there is a minyan, 10 or more. And then for the next 7 days, the family sits Shiva. Shiva means 7. And where they don't do anything. The community helps them, just allows them to grieve. After 7 days, they get up, they take a walk around the block, and then they restrict their party going for the remainder of 30 days because your heart is broken. Sometimes you will see people wearing black ribbons that are cut. That's a carryover from the tradition where they would rent their clothing to demonstrate that they had a broken heart. Annually, the anniversary of the death is remembered. It's called a yortzeit. That's a Yiddish term. And during the year, there is every time you have one of the pilgrimage days, so it's 3 times a year, you have Yizkor, that comes from the root to remember. So while the body is handled reverently, we don't know for sure where the soul, how long it takes for the soul to ascend, but we remember our loved ones with deep reverence.
Thank you. And we'll have another round of questions for individuals, and I'm going to start with Dr. Pannu, and so that we can have as many questions as possible and answers as possible, I'm going to ask everybody to try to be as brief in your response as you can. The question is, Dr. Pannu, you said that truth was eternal, never changing. How do you reconcile this view with human evolution, which embraces change as the only constant?
The fact is, truth really never changes. It's our perception that changes. So, it's what we perceive is what's changing, not the truth. Human beings are still the same human beings. We still have the same head, body, and limbs with the brain there. It hasn't changed that much. But our perceptions have definitely changed. So,
thank you. Marie, how does the board in Boston replenish itself if someone dies? How are they replaced?
The board is self-perpetuating, so among the 5 members of the board, then they elect from the field a new person to serve on the board.
Okay, thank you. Mac, can you expound on the nature of the person whom you proclaim to be your living prophet? How is this person spiritually led, and in what way is he, I presume, the person says, confirmed?
Great question, by the way. The current prophet is Thomas S. Monson. Thomas S. Monson, as all of the prophets in the modern days, were apostles first. He was a senior apostle, is always the senior apostle who becomes the president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. How does he become the senior apostle? He lives longer than the ones, than the other ones. And that is how the Lord decides who the prophet will be, it's the one who is the senior apostle. And now how does he receive revelation? That's a great question, by the way. That's a question that's one for each of us. How do you receive revelation from our Father in heaven? And the answer is that revelation comes through prayer, through fasting, through study of the Scriptures, through study of the Lord's Word. And that revelation comes into the mind and into the heart and into every fiber of one's being. And it is a confirmation, you know. As we call people to callings, and you wonder, who do you call into a calling? Thoughts come into your mind. You think of an individual, and then you get a confirmation of that. You get a feeling in your heart. You get actually a feeling in your entire being. We believe that the prophet of the Lord, that he receives revelation from the Lord. He goes into the temple in Salt Lake City, and there he prays and receives counsel from the Quorum of the 12, from his counselors, from the Quorum of the 70, and then prays about that, fasts about that, and receives direct revelation from our Father in heaven.
Thank you. Elhan, when the great peace you mentioned comes, will there be one religion?
That's a tricky question.
Baha'is essentially believe that all the world's religions are actually one because we have one creator who is God. So will we have one religion? In the spiritual sense, we already have one religion. Spiritually, we all believe in the same thing. It is possible that there will be more religions. That's not what we're talking about when we talk about the great peace, but it's rather the true love that people feel in their hearts for every single other person on the planet. That's what the great peace is talking about, not necessarily the oneness of religion. Baha'is do actually believe that the only thing that changes from religion to religion is our social teaching. So spiritually, we're all the same, but socially, we all do different things.
Thank you. Rabbi, who are the Jewish people in Israel who are supported by the Israeli government? And what permits them that status? And how are they viewed by other Israeli Jews?
Difficult question because I'm not certain to whom they are referring.
Shall we go to another question?
Let's go to another question, because I think within whether it's in Israel or in the rest of the world, if there are indigent Jews, they are supported. But
okay, we'll go on to another question. But this one's harder. Okay, and this is why we get to do these things, because you get to ask the hard questions, Rabbi. So this question is, how is the motto you mentioned, do unto others, applied in Palestine today by the Jewish community?
you got it wrong. It said, do not do to others what you would not have done to you. It's you're going to the...
Well, anyway, the gist of it was, be nice, wasn't it, sort of?
Yeah, treat the person as you would want to be treated.
Right, and I think this person was saying, is that in operation
Where?
in Israel and Palestine by the Jewish community,
Okay.
related to the Palestinian community?
Related to the Palestinian community. First of all, until Palestine gets itself organized as a state, it's a larger territory. And we're hoping that they will be organized as a state for the sake of the people who live within their boundaries, especially those who have been without a homeland for many, many years. Universally, I think that you have to deal with people, with individuals. There are certainly the intent of the Israeli government, the intent of the Jewish people is to treat people with justice within the laws that we have had all of our lives, and that we share with Islam and with Christianity. There are some individual areas where we might say that there are some injustices that are being done. Part of this is because of the politics. Part of this is because of certain individuals who have taken advantage of monies that have come in and have used them for terrorist effects. The bottom line is that Israel is a very small country surrounded by not necessarily friendly neighbors, although we've had a wonderful relationship with Egypt for many years. Even that right now, because of the Arab Spring, is a little iffy. So Israel is in defensive mode, and sometimes that may come across as being unjust, but it's to make sure that its people are kept safe.
Thank you very much. Doctor, under what circumstances would a Muslim be asked by the Islamic Society to be removed from the religion or the congregation? Can you stand?
How many more questions do you have? Ask that to Dr. Ask that.
Okay. At least we never had a pass before, but okay. I was hoping that you would mention what the roles are between men and women.
Well, if you're talking about the family unit,
I think in the faith.
in the faith, yeah. Men and women are shepherds. Each one has his responsibility. They are like spokes, wheels in a car. Each one complements the role of other. There is a verse in the Quran which says, "Hunna libasul lakum wa antum libasul lahunna." They are garments unto you, and you are garments unto them. This word garment is a beautiful metaphor because it signifies four things. It applies to husband, wife, any family unit. Why we use the word garment? Because a spouse is very close to his partner. After skin, the next thing which is close to human body is the garment. So the relationship between husband and wife is complementary. Second, garment, because it keeps the body covered. It conceals all the defects and weaknesses. So the spouses are supposed to cover their weaknesses, and not discuss the weaknesses of each other in public. Thirdly, the garment provides comfort and warmth during cold weather. Similarly, during trials and tribulations of life, the spouses come together. The garment also provides poise, dignity, and beauty. Similarly, the spouses should lend strength to each other and remain as strength and not be the weakness of each other.
Okay, thank you. We're going to ask the panelists for we'll have one final round with them, and they can either make a closing statement by responding to something they hadn't quite finished, or I will ask them another question. So it's up to you. We'll start with you. Sure, what here?
A question.
A question. Okay. Is there anything you can share with us about what the practitioner actually does in the process of healing another person?
Well, to begin with, that's a very sacred role in which the practitioner works with an individual. The practitioner is not the healer. The practitioner understands it is God's revelation of what is already true, what is the real body of the individual, which is the spirit idea. The practitioner then, and by the way, the person who has chosen to be in the public practice, that is their profession, and they are not allowed to be engaged in another type of income earning work, because it is understood that to be in that mental place that is so important for the person calling, the practitioner needs to be, you know, Jesus talked about going into your closet to pray. And we do that certainly mentally, to be so clear in our understanding. What we do understand, that God is spirit and man is image and likeness, and therefore the true body of man is spiritual. Have I answered that?
I think so, but that's good. Thank you. Matt, would you like to make a closing comment, or would you like a question?
I don't know, do I get to hear the question first?
Okay. Yeah, let's make a deal. The question is, do you think that the LDS faith will evolve through the ongoing revelation from the prophet, such that there may be a broadening role for women? For instance, would it be possible that they could be included into the priesthood?
So much for asking about the question.
Okay.
That's a great question, by the way, and my answer is I don't know. And so let me just say that the Lord has been very clear with regard to the priesthood, and that the priesthood is for men at this time. It's interesting to me. I've always been impressed with the strength of the women. I'm going to say something that, by the way, is my opinion. And so just to share that, and I've always said that the women don't need the priesthood, and the men do. That the women are already so spiritual and so strong that the men need the priesthood in order to make them equal to the women, and to make them as strong spiritually as the women. If the Lord wanted to reveal to the prophet the giving of the priesthood to the women, he would do so, and all of the members would accept that. And that goes for all other things that would be revealed through the Lord's prophet. But at this time, the priesthood is given to men only.
Okay, thank you. Final answer. Okay. Elham.
Do you have a question?
I have a question.
All right, let's do a question.
Okay. Who says you can't go to Israel?
I don't know.
I can tell you why, and then maybe that would make it more clear. The Universal House of Justice, first of all, pilgrimage is very coordinated in the Baha'i faith. There's certain places that you go, there's a certain amount of time that you can spend there, simply because there's such a large number of Baha'is trying to go to one small place. So you have to apply and get on a waiting list, and when your name comes up on the waiting list, the House of Justice asks for permission for you to enter Israel. The difficulty is because of the religious tension between the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims, and every major world religion that has their spiritual places in Israel, the Baha'is don't want to contribute to that. So we go in very small numbers, there's only a certain number of Baha'is in the country at any time, and we're asked not to dilly-dally around Israel, but go for pilgrimage and then leave. I hope that helps.
Okay, thank you very much. Rabbi, would you like a closing statement or a question?
There was something that I haven't covered, and so I will right now. And since it was brought up by others, this is regarding the Messiah. The traditional Judaism looks forward to Moshiach, who is the Messiah, who has yet to appear. The Hebrew Bible gives some pretty good outlines as to what it takes for the Messiah to appear, and we do not believe the Messiah has yet appeared. However, liberal forms of Judaism now look forward to what they call Messianic times, wherein a sense of individual partnership with God, rather than the appearance of a Messiah, will bring world peace and equity. In the traditional view, the Messiah will herald Olam Haba, which is the world to come, wherein souls will be resurrected and reunited in Jerusalem, while others feel that Olam Haba is the transition from mortal life, in which the soul is occupying the physical shell, to life beyond death, which means that we all have the opportunity of participating in Olam Haba. Judaism as a whole says that everyone is deserving of a portion of Olam Haba, that people are born with pure souls and have the ability to repent throughout their lives where they miss the mark. We make a big deal of this on Yom Kippur, but we do this actually in our prayers every night, giving us an opportunity to try to fix what was wrong and not do it again. An underlying principle, therefore, is underscoring the sanctity of life, and we say, "Ubachartem b'chaim," and you shall choose life.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Shafi, would you prefer a question or a closing comment of your own?
I usually prefer to make a comment.
Okay.
Because there is no limitation on time for the comment. I just want to talk for 2 minutes about the importance of time. This is the time alone.
What?
There is a verse in Quran. It says, وَالْأَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. Translation: Verily, the entire humankind is in a state of continuous loss, perpetual loss, except for those who believe, who have faith, and do good deeds, and who are patient and remind others to be patient and be truthful. The most important thing we have is time. Time is being constantly taken away from our life. There was a scholar by the name Hassan al-Basri who said, "O child of Adam, you are but a number of days. As each day goes away, a part of you is gone. So let us make use of the time." Human life is like a block of melted ice. There is a verse in the Quran which says, "Kullu nafsin zaiqatul maut." Every living thing has to die one day. That's why our Prophet said, make use of the 5 things before the other 5 take your opportunity away. Your youth before you become old. Your health before you become sick. Your leisure time before you become preoccupied. Your wealth before you become poor. Your life before you die. Let us use our time efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good Dr. Pannu, you get the last word. So would you like a question, or would you like a closing comment?
Let's see what the question is about.
Okay. The question is, what is the most challenging aspect of being a Sikh in the American community?
Actually, for me as a lady, I find it's not that difficult. But for the men, it's a different story. Because the men, they have a turban. And unfortunately, especially after 9/11, we have been identified as being Muslims, and a lot of us have been called terrorists and Muslims and go back to Pakistan and stuff like that. I think that's the most difficult part for us. The fact is, Sikhs are number one, they're not Muslims. We are very different. I mean, yes, the Sikh men, even women, we can tie turban, there's no restriction, and many of us do. I'm not one of those. That's more for me, it's more convenient because I'm a physician and I want my customers, my clients to feel comfortable with me, so I don't have the turban. But the fact is, a Sikh man or woman, we have long hair. That's why the turban, it covers it up. It keeps it nice and neat. And also turban is like a crown for every Sikh. And whereas the Muslim man, they don't have any restrictions like that. Secondly, we are very peace-loving, very democratic religion. Terrorism is not part of us. Yes, we do have the right to defend ourselves. We don't let anybody trample us. We stand for our rights and by peaceful means to the maximum extent. But when the other party does not listen to anything, then we have the right to pick up our land. But that's the last resort. And if all of us listen to each other, even today and at every interfaith meeting, what do we do? All religions, they teach us one thing, and that is, we are all creation of the one Creator. We all have the same soul. We are all part of that Creator. Why do we have this enmity? Why do we have this hatred? I don't comprehend that. It has puzzled me all my life and still does. I don't see, there is no reason why a Sikh man should be called a terrorist. On 9/11, you see, one of the things is we are very soft-hearted. And after 9/11, the first thing we thought of, okay, those people, the rescuers, they, or the firefighters and all, they are doing all their hard work. So the people at the Gurdwara there, they cooked the food and took it there to serve all those people who were working so hard. And unfortunately, they were pushed away. That was so hurtful to us. They took all the, they collected their money and they prepared the food. They took it there with everything, the plates and spoons and everything, and yet they were pushed away. I hope this sort of thing never happens in USA or anywhere else again. Because whenever there's a disaster, the Sikhs will be there first.
Thank you. Thank you. And on that note, let's give them a round of applause.